2017 has been a very impressive year for music so far. There have been so many albums that I loved this year, and so many that I'm actually quite worried that they won't all fit onto my end of year list. So I decided, you know, it's halfway through the year, might as well do a list of my 25 favourite albums of 2017 so far. These are in no particular order. Some of these might be familiar to you, others not so much. Some of these albums I haven't even reviewed on the channel yet, but I hope that if you haven't listened to some of these albums and these do tickle your fancy, then you decide to check them out, because hopefully these highlights for me will also be highlights for you. I'm going to start off this list with a big highlight for me this year, Scissor's Ctrl. The debut album from the Top Dog Entertainment specialist in neo-soul and R&B music. A very raw, honest, intimate set of tracks that explore femininity, insecurity, infidelity in relationships, and growing up. This isn't your average whingy, relationship-based, love-struck, emotive album. This is actually quite an emotionally conflicted and bittersweet album. At number 2, I'm going to shout out a highlight for me this year that came out in January, Foxygen's Hang.
If you're already there, then you're already dead. If you're living in America, whoa.
Foxygen always take the vintage styles of rock and roll and soul and pop, bring them to the modern age, but kind of write songs that sound like these vintage styles of music are actually crumbling and falling to pieces. Hang is the most theatrical, over the top, sometimes even cheesy album so far, but it's so stupidly fun, even with some of the dark and satirical undertones in the lyrics. If you want to hear the album version of a very dark but theatrical and over the top and luscious, string-inflicted, orchestral Broadway musical, check this out. Pop albums this year have been very good so far. Some of my highlights include the second album from Temples, which combines psychedelic pop with indie rock with luscious chamber pop.
Living life with the speed of flight. All the savior.
Swedish singer-songwriter Jens Lekman came through with his sugariest and poppiest album yet. Very danceable tracks on here, but with very smart, sharp, funny, even snarky lyrics. This was just a good time, I must say.
Oxygen replaced methane. A party started in the ocean. Trilobites and crustaceans.
Then we have an album from a band that I didn't expect to create an album that I was enthralled by, but they did. Paramore with After Laughter.
And I still don't know how I even survived. Hard times, hard times, hard times, hard times, hard times. Gonna make you wonder why you.
After Laughter sees Paramore moving from the pop-punk stage of their career to a brighter, more vibrant synth-pop stage of their career. This album has some of my favourite pop tunes of the year. Hard Times, Rose-Colored Boy, Pool, Caught in the Middle. But if you want a synth-pop album that's so much darker and so much more cavernous and harrowing, check out Ulver's latest album, The Assassination of Julius Caesar. There are some tight grooves on this thing, very deep, passionate vocals. Ulver started out as a black metal outfit in the 90s. Since then they've changed style so often, and this is essentially their pop album. But more pummeling, more noisy, sometimes even scary, is the newest Blanck mass album, World Eater. And as the title suggests, this would be the perfect track for the world literally being eaten, or maybe the Earth melting into a giant space puddle. Not that I want it to happen, but if it did happen, this would be a good soundtrack for it. A massive highlight for me this year was Sampha's debut album, Process. Usually slow, emotive R&B ballads aren't everyone's thing, but Sampha does an amazing twist on this style with electrifying results.
It's so hard, I've been mounting now, yeah. I'm
out here. And you touch down in the base of my face.
Then, next up on the list, another very emotive album, but something that's so much more raw, very wastelandish, bare, stripped down, sometimes even freaky album. Leslie Feist's new album, Pleasure. There are times on this album where Feist actually sounds like she's gonna snap, and one of these moments is literally within the very first track, so you're getting that punch to the face straight away. Next up, another very emotive album. Gee, really loving the emotive stuff this year. But this time it's from an artist that comes from where I'm from. Lorde Melodrama. Huge pop artist, very popular, very critically acclaimed, and Melodrama is everything I wanted from his sophomore record and more. Lorde still has her very sharp, observant lyrics, but this time she's coming from a very personal and intimate angle that's actually very heart-wrenching at moments. The instrumental interlude on Hard Feelings is one of my favorite musical moments of the year. Tracks like Reliability and Writer in the Dark are extremely heart-wrenching as well, sometimes even with a strong Kate Bush influence, which I thought was pretty cool. There are also very smart electropop songs that would appeal to fans of her original stuff on Pure Heroine and the Love Club EP. And what really enchanted me about this album was the fact that Lorde matches her lyrics with production that's so much more colourful and visceral and actually kind of brings out the emotions in her lyrics. Up next, the debut album from Israeli singer-songwriter and producer Noga Erez, with a set of very nuanced but off-the-wall and just flat-out weird songs.
Hear me, no one sees me, no one. I'm off the radar. I'm off the radar.
Some of my friends who watch this video might be thinking, Ricky, where's the grime? Don't you love grime? What's your favourite grime record of the year? Is it Stormzy's Gang Signs and Prayer? No, it's not. It's actually Wiley's Godfather.
I was in the shadows, I came to the light with a path of speakers who wanna be first and never be last. I've been ahead of the game, I've been ahead of the craft, I wanna laugh. Come sailing along like a boss with a flow, I'm that yacht with a brass, I'm a striker.
This album is banger after banger after banger after banger, fast-paced, tight flows, bombastic and abrasive beats, and Wiley essentially credits the old artists of grime and the new artists of grime. He reflects on his own status as a grime legend, a veteran of the subgenre and the culture of grime in the UK, and even gives quite a thorough history lesson for people who might not be so familiar to grime. I just can't pour out enough of my appreciation for this album, so I'm just going to move swiftly onward. Jonwayne's new album, Rap Album 2, very emotive but hushed and nocturnal album that sounds like it's almost set at midnight.
You may recall my marvelous reconnaissance, I never forget, like elephants on 4chan. Remember, I'm a poor man, but got a fucking kingdom up in here, where the beer flows like me and seeded with...
Another hip-hop album that's also fused with R&B, Brockhampton's mixtape or album, Saturation.
Keep a gold chain on my neck, fly as a jet. Boy, better treat me with respect. Keep a gold chain on my neck, fly as a jet. Boy, better treat me with respect.
I must admit, this did take quite a while to grow on me, but when it did, I was so captivated by how good the hooks were on this thing, how satisfying the fusions of hip-hop and R&B were. School projects made me think that groups this size couldn't even work together that well, but Brockhampton raised their fists and said, yeah we can do it. What's likely to be my favourite rock record of the year, or at least so far, Greatest Hits by Remo Drive.
Now I don't trust my Tylenol to save my ass when I mess up. Now I eat out my...
Just very punchy emo / indie rock tunes that I'm still coming back to. Look around in Underside. But if you want a rock record that's so chaotic and all over the place and just such a spectacle, King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, Murder of the Universe.
Despondent, lugubrious, no future. We turn down by...
Literally a 3-part album about the apocalypse, but surprisingly, a very fun and energetic and insane one. Colin Stetson, the saxophone virtuoso known for collaborating with Bon Iver, Timber Timbre, Bad Bad Not Good, Sarah Neufeld, the violinist from Arcade Fire, has come through with a new solo album that's probably his most aggressive one yet. Colin Stetson creates such a diverse range of sounds with his saxophone. It's incredible, but also the fact that he's able to temper and shape it to form a coherent, even cinematic musical piece. Next up is another emo rock record, but a very heavy and emotionally pummeling one that deals with depression and suicide and perseverance through those tough moments. It's Sorority Noise's You're Not As Blanck As You Think. Then Father John Misty's pure comedy.
Betting Taylor Swift every night inside the Oculus Rift. After Mr. and the Mrs. finish dinner and the dishes.
Father John Misty is known for being very snarky with his lyrics, but this time he's bringing that snarkiness to a greater scale. The human condition, recent events, talking about pop culture. He basically dissects it with some piano ballads, folk rock ballads, but I really think it's that sharp wit and the poignant points he makes on a range of these different topics that makes this album work so well. And I think the poignancy comes in the fact that, you know, he does take the piss out of a lot of these topics, but under it all is just this underlying sense that what he's saying really isn't that funny at all. Algiers also did a fantastic album, once again fusing post-punk and industrial music with soulful genres like blues and gospel music, but in a way that's so much darker and grittier and even angrier. Expect a lot of angry but soulful, politically charged jams here. The new Fleet Foxes record, Crack Up, this one grew on me like crazy. Fleet Foxes tend to make music that is as vast and awe-inspiring as the natural world itself. Helplessness Blues is my favourite album of the decade. I had high expectations, to be honest. And although Crack Up is their most experimental album yet, the beauty of it is no less gobsmacking.
But I can't leave until the sight comes to mind.
As for metal albums in 2017, there have been quite a lot that I've enjoyed. Cardinia, Code Orange, Julius. However, there are 2 albums this year that have stuck out to me the most, and they are Power Trip's Nightmare Logic, this thunderous, nightmarish, unforgiving throwback to thrash metal, showing that thrash metal, even past its prime, can still be very exciting.
The execution is here, and he's sharpening his axe.
And my second metal pick is in the field of black metal. And I think my favourite installment in this genre has got to be Fen's adventurous, over an hour long, atmospheric and strongly melodic Winter. A lot of progressive song structures, punchy and melodic riffs, and as you'd expect, just a fantastic atmosphere to boot. I just love the landscapes that this album makes me think of when I listen to the music. It's such a constantly engaging album that its runtime doesn't even appear to me as much of a problem. The last 2 albums now, 2 very high favourites of mine for this year. Perfume Genius's No Shape. Easily Perfume Genius's most diverse and risk-taking album yet. Still very lush, still very intimate. Also puts out a message about self-empowerment and identity, being proud of yourself, not letting anyone cut you down. Lastly, I must shed the spotlight on Mount Eerie's latest album, A Crow Looked at Me. To put it into a minimum amount of words as I possibly can, the most elaborate and uncompromising album about death I've ever heard.
When I was 5 or 6, we were camping in the islands in July. The tall yellow grass and the rose hips fragrant after sunset.
And that's because everything on this album is real. The lyrics on this album are based on the passing of his wife Genevieve last year, and focuses on how the passing of a loved one has not only impacted his personal life, and even just the small, mundane moments of his life, how even those moments are impacted, but also has reminded him of how real death is. A Crow Looked at Me is a reminder of its inevitability. It's breathtaking at times, and obviously incredibly heart-wrenching. I don't know how long this video is going to be, but I hope that if you did make it to the end of the video, you do check out these albums if you haven't heard them yet. If you've heard all of them already, I'm sorry you had to sit through this video. I don't know what you're going to do about it. Oh yeah, thank you very much for watching.